70% of all digital transformations fail. That seems like a shocking statistic, especially since the transformation industry, now we're talking transformation, business transformation, not just global business services. The transformation industry is a $1.2 trillion industry across the entire world. Now, the 70% transformation failure rate has been known for a long time. And it gets debated a lot because people may say, well, that's not true of my projects because I deliver my projects on time, on scope, on quality, on budget. So I've done my work, haven't I? That's the fallacy. This is not about implementing a technology or about driving an episodic, self-contained little capability inside the company. It is about being very precise on defining what value are you bringing to the enterprise through the transformation. And then secondly, having a methodology that brings the rest of the organization along so that change is systemic, it's not just episodic. And those are the two reasons why 70% of all digital transformations fail. If you focus on something that's just very narrow to your own department or your own journey in the end-to-end, and the rest of the company is not changing along with it, then you may be actually part of the problem. You're not addressing the end-to-end business outcome that the stakeholders, the board of directors, the CXOs expect out of you. And then secondly, if you approach this with all of the rigors of project management, whether it's Project Management Institute or whatever, but then forget the human organizational adoption element, then you have delivered only a part of the solution, and it's not going to be sustainable. This was some of the research that I did in writing my first book, Why Digital Transformations Failed. And I actually approached and talked with more than 100 different entities. These were other peer CIOs, these were venture capitalists, these were advisors, consultants, and many, many industry product experts. And this is really important to the GBS journey, Global Business Services journey, because at the end of the day, when you kind of think about global business services, Filippo, and this is something that I actually learned from you, we are the transformation engine of the enterprise. That is global business services' entire reason for being, isn't it?
Well, this articulation, Tony, is wonderful. I would add, from my experience, I would offer that internal alignment oftentimes is not there. And the reason is that people at the senior levels or different levels, with the best intention, they have a different opinion on what should be done. So creating this unified sense of understanding, a commitment to what is value in the business, that's very, very important. Secondly, to your point, is creating a platform, so to say, an organization, a model that truly makes it systemic, because some organizations, some changes, some transformations succeed, but they relapse. They at some point, 2 years later, 3 years later, we go back to where we were. You have to start all over again. So one strategic question is, how do we create a common North Star on the value, on what we're doing, why we're doing it? How do we contextualize for the business? What is the purpose? What is the intent? So that's why communications is so critical, so important. And then creating this sense of sustainability, frankly, what's in it for me, for all stakeholders involved, because different people have different priorities or they have different goals. So that's truly, truly critical in my experience. Well, what we learned in P&G and after that through many, many companies, I would say a few dozen companies, some of the common themes are the same. The transformation is episodic, and probably what we did different, perhaps better in P&G is to truly embed it in the operating model. So the way we did work was a transformation ongoing of the processes, improving the organization model, working on the culture, making digital part of the way we operated. And that was a critical foundation, a critical building block. Then all employees, and this is a second a critical in our experience element, all the employees knew exactly what was their role to play. We played positions in a very, very clear way without, overlaps or confusion in responsibilities and roles. And finally, we drove a very strong accountability. There was no confusion about who was in charge. And this is what allowed us to for example, implement an ERP project in a big region, Europe, North America, in 15, 18 months, totally flawless, or integrate Gillette after acquisition into Procter & Gamble in a year and a half, the whole commercials part. So we went one after the other. I have to say, honestly, I was surprised myself that over the last 20 years, we didn't miss one. And whether big transformation, small changes, but in all cases, the quality and the speed that was truly remarkable. And I didn't grow up that way in my digital background, business background. Every change was very problematic. So there is a methodology, there is a vast sequence of steps and an operating model that truly makes the transformation to the business something that can deliver phenomenal results and also be truly, truly sustainable and systemic.
And Filippo, this was something that you and I had to challenge ourselves to put into the book, Revolutionizing Business Operations, isn't it? Because we had to do a lot of the things that you did intuitively and then kind of challenge ourselves to say, what's the model behind it? And so in the book, Revolutionizing Business Operations, we talk about three drivers. The first is open market. So simply kind of think about open market model as how do you operate internally as if you're pulling your users and clients as opposed to pushing or mandating, right? So that's essentially the open market model. The second is unified accountability, which is, are you just optimizing within your silo, or are you really taking accountability even for things that you don't control and optimizing the whole? And the third is, how do you put all of that in place via an operating model, a dynamic operating engine, so that you actually have very specific things that you need to do daily, weekly, monthly, so that you're actually running the engine. And that's really those are really the three drivers that I think we may have started to do that intuitively while we were working at P&G. But we had to challenge ourselves to figure out how to do it.
These hindsights almost, this retrospective journey towards what did we do to get to the point we got that was intellectually super interesting. And when you intersect those three key drivers with the four stages. You go from a default, everyone will try to do the best by in silos. Then you become intentional. Then you truly drive innovation as part of your core business, core DNA. And that is what truly build out in the end the mindset, the skills, and the tools that make organizations so much more performing, so much different, so much better than others.
So one of the memorable transformation experiences I had was while at Procter & Gamble. There was a program about 15 years ago now called Going Digital that truly transformed many work processes inside the company. And Filippo, this may actually be a really good use case study where if you could help our viewers understand what drove that and then what was different than what a traditional company may have done.
Yes. Well, the state of the business was facing a few challenges, which is no surprise. Of course, every company will go through some times of better and less good times. But we saw a lot of slow decision making, the cycle time in the business, getting product innovation to market became not as competitive as should have been. Employees were spending a lot of time in back office work. Some of the tasks were even duplicated or unnecessary. And then importantly, the experience with the processes, with the work of our employees, as well as our partners, clients, suppliers, was not that great. So we decided, with this context, with this background in mind, we said, what do we want to achieve? What do we want to accomplish? And the North Star was very, very clear. We want first to accelerate the cycle time in the business, whether it is closing the financial books at the end of the month, shipping orders to customers, delivering our goods to customers faster, could be order to cash, could be in procurement through a variety of different processes, marketing. We said we need to get faster. Secondly, we wanted to eliminate unnecessary human touch points because this is where most of the time, which is unproductively spent, goes. And so free up capacity in the organization, free up time for people, and finally improving the experience at every touch point, whether internally or externally. That led, Tony, you were of course a critical player, and that led to a major transformation. It became truly systemic and supported by very strong communications plans.
What I still remember about it was how this was orchestrated by the IT and GBS organization, but that it was a company-wide program. This wasn't where IT and GBS told the rest of the company, use this technology, use this platform. It was not about the technology. It was about truly understanding in every corner of the business, what are the work processes and how do you transform them against the three goals that you just laid out? So, perhaps tell us a little more about the thought process on truly understanding the work processes in a very large company across 100+ countries.
It was, Tony, as you recall, very systemic. We mapped out all the processes which were in a scope. Processes fundamentally is how companies work. When we talk finance, supply chain, HR, procurement, marketing, sales, fundamentally companies operate commercialize what they make, what they do to their customers, to their clients, to their consumers through processes. That's what we're talking. So all these tasks that, in a certain sequence, we deliver value, we mapped them out. Some of those, we couldn't make a big intervention. Think, for example, the speed of a production line is one of our manufacturing plants. I mean, there is nothing we can digitize there. Or the speed of delivering goods to our, customers' warehouses. But there were a lot of processes we could automate, we could digitize, and that is where it really became an amazing change, if I may say so, because we didn't just deploy technologies to the business for them to use. We provided solutions. And there is a big difference between you make a technology available and hopefully, the business will make good use of it, versus Tony deploying an integrated solution supported by very strong communications plan on what is the value, what is the role you can play, why would you want to do it and be part of it, right? That was an ingredient which made a big difference.
And that, in many ways, I think is the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves as transformation leaders. Are we in the business of delivering siloed capabilities, or are we in the business of delivering transformation outcomes into the company?
So, Tony, we talked about what worked well, what made transformations successful, the key deliverables, the value for the business, what needs to be done to make sure that probability of strong results is much, much higher. But we had also a lot of glitches. And perhaps we should share why some of these big changes didn't work out. What was common across this failure, let's call them the way they are. What we did to recover, to turn an issue into an opportunity, and then what were some of the common themes across these challenges we faced?
Wait, Filippo, did we ever have any failures? I thought we had only successes. No, of course, I'm joking.
I was sleeping.
No, of course, we had, more than our fair share of failures, which is what really helps us to figure out what our practical approach is. But there are many examples. Filippo, the one in particular I can think of is, when we tried to implement a global best-in-class sales system across the entire world. And we had, and I was leading it, so I will take accountability. But, we had a few years where the sales organization felt that, hey, this is an imposition. Are you trying to look over my shoulder on what I'm doing?
Right.
And why do I need this? Give me the ability to just develop relationships and don't try and standardize the way I do things. And that did not go very well until, of course, we learned very, very quickly. We pivoted. The learning from that and many of the other failures that we had was, first and foremost, if you don't bring the organization along with you, if you don't show what's in it for me to the various organizations, then there's no way at all that you can be successful. The second thing that I think we learned on that particular example, Filippo, was that it's really, really important to try and not force standardization where it is not applicable. Driving one global sales platform into sales processes that vary literally by country, by customer, is not a good idea. And so these were just a few of many other lessons that we learned along the way.
Very true. And then also we learned the importance to iterate
Yes.
through a pilot and expand rather than a big bang because the risk for the business is much greater if you do something massive that doesn't work. And also making sure that people involved, the people who have to do the work, who are dealing with this process change, don't become spectators. We want players in the field. When people become skeptical or even cynical, then we need to go back and start all over again.
And that is actually, Filippo, one of the biggest dangers that I foresee in today's world where, technology like AI is so important, and yet it has become so much of a buzzword that you can actually do more harm by trying to drive this, by trying to push this, because you're getting a lot of pressure on you from leaders in the company saying, what are you doing in AI?
Right.
And that's a mistake, isn't it? Because I go back to some of the challenges that we had when we were trying to actually change the work processes using technologies. And then what we learned very, very quickly is the accountability for adoption of that technology really needs to rest at a process owner work process level.
Absolutely.
And you get what you measure by holding those people accountable. So your job is not necessarily to push things down people's throats. Your jobs are to essentially become the independent newspaper reporter of the efficiency or the non-efficiency of the whole process, and let the system figure out how to hold the process owners and the business units accountable.
Very true, Tony. And we also learned the importance of the right metrics and measures and KPIs, because there's some of them which were business outcomes. So what is the value for the business? What do we deliver to the business? And others are internal, are in progress. We call them operational metrics, which will lead you to the business outcome. And confusing the two, which we did in this occasion, and I have to say a few others before we learned our lesson. That is one of the ingredients for why we struggle so much. But, thanks God, hopefully we have learned something and embedded in the new models.
Absolutely. And eventually, I think that is what has gotten us to this place, Filippo, where, there is a lot of recognition that business value that you can drive by bringing the entire company along. So in other words, in many ways, what I think you did very well at Procter & Gamble was that you made the entire company part of your organization, because you looked at the entire company as the arms and legs to drive the transformation, not just the people that you control.
And that's actually, Tony, a big insight. Some companies we are seeing struggle with this, some organizations, some, whether GBS or IT, struggle with the notion that I cannot take accountability for what I don't control. Well, the reality is that we have to take end-to-end accountability. We will never control 100% of the resources involved in any change. But when we drive change, when we lead a change, then we need to take accountability for the business outcomes. Then how we empower, how do we drive resources that we do not control directly to do the right work? That's a different question. And that's a question, by the way, for which we do have an answer. But this is important not to confuse that if I'm not in control of everything, I cannot be accountable because this is not the way business works, and this is not the reality of the world that we live in.